welcome to the show. It's our Tuesday ranking show. I'm Taylor, your host, and I'm here with Scotty. How are you doing?
Taylor, I had a great weekend. How about yourself?
I had a great weekend. We were actually both in Dallas. We were just talking about that.
That's right.
I had a great time this weekend, and we're coming at you live in a new studio this week. Or I say studio, but
I know. I got kicked out of the old one, so it was a little sad.
a little sad.
But we adjust, we adapt, and we come to you with some rankings, football and volleyball rankings for this week. Volleyball season is well underway, and then football season starts this week in 2 days from now if you're watching live right now. So we appreciate all y'all watching here on our YouTube page and across our various channels.
Yep, we got a lot of stuff. We also, joining us today is Josh over there in Austin. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. Like Scott said, it's football season, and I'm just so excited. Can't wait. We had some talks yesterday about Friday Night Lights, the show. So, hey, let's get it rolling. Let's talk about who's the best in these areas. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it. We got a lot to get to, and we're going to start with volleyball. How's that sound?
That sounds good. Like you've
Let's
mentioned,
do
it's
it.
been underway for a few weeks now, so I think it's only appropriate that we start with volleyball since we've actually seen some games, and then we'll carry on to football towards the
All right,
end.
sounds good. Let's start with Houston, and we're going to start with 5A and a 6A. At your number 10 spot, we have Fulshire, 9 Santa Fe, 8 Katy Tompkins, 7 is Friendswood, 6 is Klein, 5 is Seven Lakes, 4 is Clear Springs, 3 is Pearland Dawson, number 2 is Barbers Hill, and number 1 is the Woodlands, taking the number 1 spot this week. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, I would say the Woodlands is one of the biggest surprises and shocks of the year so far. They're currently undefeated, so that gives them they've earned the number 1 spot. There's a lot of really good teams here in the Houston area. We talked a lot about Seven Lakes and Klein to start off the year. They played in the state championship game this last year. But the Woodlands is making some serious noise this year, so congrats to them on a great season so far, and hopefully they'll carry it on through the rest of the year, and that's why they're our number 1 team.
Exactly. Not a lot has shaken up there, but the Woodlands are looking good, so watch out for them and all the other teams that are around the Houston area. Any more thoughts?
Josh, can we put the graphic back up on the screen here for Houston 5A? Yeah, I mean, Dawson, we were fully aware of. Clear Springs having a really nice season so far, too. As I mentioned, Klein and Seven Lakes still at the top. And then you got Barbers Hill coming in. They're a 5A team, so they're the number 1 5A team. Friendswood, they play each other throughout the season, so they'll be able to face each other. Fulshire, maybe a little bit slower start to the year. They've had some people left the team, and I think they're still trying to find their groove, but not worried about the Fulshire Chargers.
Yep, finding the groove is definitely, they'll get in their swing of things. Let's move on to a 1A through 4A for Houston. Number 10 is Hardin, 9 is Splendoria, 8 is Needville, 7 is Schulenburg, 6 Liberty, 5 is Bridge City, 4 is Belleville, and at number 3 is Columbus. 2, let's see who that is.
Huffman Hargrave.
Huffman Hargrave. And your number 1 spot is East Bernard. Take it away.
Yeah, Belleville. Josh, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this as well, but Belleville, they were number 1 this week, still in the top 10 as well, but East Bernard coming in at number 1, having a great start to the season as well. So those are my thoughts there. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, East Bernard, of course, always preface this with these are the rankings we find online, so take that with what you will. But we have them sitting at 16-0. Belleville had a little bit of a rough week. Now they're 11-9. They were 6-3 last week. Again, according to our rankings that we found. So I think hey, this is a week-to-week type of thing. So sometimes you're going to fall, sometimes you're going to climb. But East Bernard right now is sitting pretty at 16-0.
Yeah, exactly. These rankings are based on a week-by-week basis, and we change things around, so feel free to give your thoughts in the comments below.
That's right. I will respond back to you.
Yep.
So
The
feel free
claws
to
will come out.
chime in.
Exactly. Let's move to our private schools for Houston. Let's get right into it. Number 10 is Episcopal. 9 is Woodlands Christian. 8 is Bay Area Christian. 7 is St. Pius. Number 6 is Northland Christian. 5 is John Cooper. 4 is Rose Hill Christian. And 3 is Concordia Lutheran. And your number 2 spot is Fort Bend Christian. And the number 1 spot is St. Agnes Tigers.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit last week about how the public schools, I think, they generally start earlier than the private schools. So now we've been able to see a few more games here in the private schools. Fort Bend Christian Academy, led by Bailey Hanner, the Texas State commit, having a really nice start to the season in these postseason or in these preseason tournaments that they're playing in. A lot of these private schools are playing against some public schools as well. So it's really good to see Fort Bend Christian passing Concordia up at number 2.
Yes.
So, if you have a hot take there, we apologize, but hey, these are the rankings. And then St. Agnes still being at number 1.
Exactly. So looking good for our private schools. Again, they've had a little bit of a slower start, but they're getting there as we move on.
Right. Well, a lot of school districts start this week as well. A few started last week, kind of sporadically here and there. So it's good that now everybody's back in school now, and kids are finally starting to get in a routine too. So there's going to be a lot of changes that come in the next few weeks with that.
Yep. So stay tuned. Let's move right along. We're going to go into San Antonio and Austin for 5A and 6A. Your number 10 spot is Stony Point. Number 9 is St. Marcos. 8 is Clark. 7, East Central. 6 is Cedar Ridge. Number 5 is Henriksen. Number 4 is Vandegrift. Number 3 is Reagan. And 2 is New Braunfels Canyon. And your number 1 spot is Brandeis, which we were talking about them last week. We're looking strong. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
I know Josh has some serious thoughts about Brandeis still being at number 1. Josh, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, look, Brandeis is still the cream of the crop when it comes to Austin, San Antonio, 5A, 6A rankings. Heck, I mean, even maybe in the state right now, they're really impressive so far off that 16-0 start. And look, after that, you can really shake up 2 through 10 however you want. I mean, all these teams have been very impressive so far. Hendrickson and Stony Point, who we didn't have ranked last week, they've moved in. They actually play each other tonight if the Max Prep schedule is correct. So big game there to really see if maybe Stony Point can move ahead of Hendrickson next week. So, but yeah, I mean, if you want to say that, Clark should be higher up or so-and-so should be lower, I'm not going to argue, because if you look at these records of these teams and how they've started so far, just very, very competitive right now in the 2 through 9 spots. But Brandeis is the top so far, and I'd say not even close. So that's my really, really hot take.
Fantastic.
I like how you said the cream of the crop. Yep, definitely. They're proving themselves out there on the court this year. So let's move to Austin and San Antonio for 1A through 4A. At number 10 is Thrall. 9 is Blanco. And number 8 is Hondo. 7, Divine. 6 is Lavernia. 5 is Fall City. 4 is Poth. 3 is Lexington. 2 is Pleasanton. And number 1 is Wimberley. Who wants to take it from here? Scott?
I'll go ahead. I'll jump in.
So,
Right.
Josh, your hometown team coming in at number 2.
And look, this isn't really any bias, right? I mean, they're sitting at 16-1. They lost their first game of the season this past week. So, I mean, this you can say, oh, you're showing a little bias to Pleasanton, but no, they've really earned that number 2 spot. I mean, you could even argue they should maybe be the number 1 team. Keeping Wimberley there, I think they, if I'm not mistaken, when I looked through, they played in a little tournament and played some higher division teams, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not going to drop them there. And then Poth, according to Max Preps, I think they played more, but I only have 4 games that I've seen. They're sitting at 2-2. Could be better. They could be worse. I'm not 100%. So they drop, and everyone else kind of stay the same. I think I moved Hondo into the rankings. They're at 10-5. So. I think it's 1 through 5 really is where you're going to kind of pay attention to as the season progresses.
Yep, looking good. Let's move to our private schools for us in San Antonio. At number 10 is Hyde Park. Number 9 is Bracken. Number 8 is Hill Country Christian. Number 7 is Grace Academy. 6 is Brentwood Christian. Number 5 is New Braunfels Christian. Number 4 is Etonian. And number 3 is Round Rock Christian. And 2 is
that San Antonio Atonement?
Correct.
San Antonio Atonement.
Okay.
And number 1 is Cornerstone Christian. And Josh, take it away from here.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last 2 weeks I've said Cornerstone doesn't get the number 1 spot because they don't really play for playoffs. But this is the season now, so I feel right that I can put them at number 1. I mean, they're 11-2, doing some good things. SA Atonement 4-0, so not as many games, but from what we see, they're still doing good. And then Round Rock Christian rounding out that top 3 at 12-4, and then Antonio right behind them at 16-5. I think those 4 are the ones you got to look out for as we move into the season.
Yep, definitely watch out for them. And let's move to Dallas-Fort Worth for 5A through 6A. Moving right along at number 10 is Highland Park. Number 9 is Arlington Martin. 8 is Frisco Lone Star. 7 is Flower Mound. 6 is Denton. Number 5 is Lucas Lovejoy. 4, Plano West. Number 3 is Coppell. And number 2 is VREN. And your number 1 spot is Midlothian.
Josh, keep those rankings up on the screen if you don't mind. My thoughts are Highland Park coming in at number 10, cracking the top 10 of the rankings. Also, Flower Mound. Flower Mound was preseason number 1, sliding down to number 7 after being number 3 or 4 last week, if I'm not mistaken. So VR Eaton's still up there. Midlothian making some noise, coming in at number 1. So, and then, keep an eye on Lucas Lovejoy on the 5A ranks. But then Coppell and Plano West moving up in the rankings up to 3 and 4 is pretty good start to the season for those teams.
Yeah, and Shayna had a little note that we maybe overlooked Frisco Lone Star last week, which is why we put them in the rankings this week. I am interested to see why she has Flower Mound. Again, we got to get her on the show. I'm going to call her up maybe next week. Let's get her on. But yeah, because Flower Mound sitting at 13-1 and then dropping down that far, I am a little, I'm like, okay, I want to see the method behind the madness here. So.
Right. Again, feel free to comment below your thoughts. We're here for them and here for it.
And I will chirp back at you in a good way, though, so I don't get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Let's move to our 1A through 4A for Dallas-Fort Worth. And your number 10 spot is Boyd. 9 is Melissa. 8 is Rains. 7 is Graham. 6 is Decatur. 5 is Gunter. 4 is Stephenville. 3 is Argyle. Number 2 is Farmersville. And number 1 spot is Salina.
Quick shout out to the Farmersville Farmers. The mascot just kind of rolls off the tongue, huh?
Totally. It really fits.
It sure does. Yeah, kind of similar to Flower Mound looking at the rankings, though. Decatur sliding down the rankings once again when Shannon Wilford, a DFW writer, had them as the number 1 team in the entire Metroplex. So pretty interesting start to the season there. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on those rankings, too? And what are some notes that Shayna had?
She didn't really leave me any notes on these, but I mean, I think when compared to, the 5A, 6A, I think these kind of make more sense when you look at it records-wise. Decatur, sitting at 10-5, so it makes sense why they're dropping in our rankings so far a little bit this season. Now, because, some people, when they make their rankings, they're like, well, this is still a power. We got to keep them here. It's like, no, if you struggle during a given week, that may affect, that's probably going to affect your rankings with us. So, yes, Salina sitting at 12-0. Easy number 1 with Farmersville right behind them at 16-1. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Are you going to have the Farmersville Farmers as part of the mascot challenge, Josh?
I mean, I really can't anymore because you're going to know that one. It's not like the Plow Boys or Plow Girls from yesterday that you had no idea.
That's right. Right. The Roscoe Plowboys, is that right?
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Always keeping us on our toes. Let's move on.
We have fun here at VYPE.
We do. That's why you need to join along and tune in. So let's move to our private school rankings for DFW. Our final ranking of the volleyball. Number 10 is Weatherford Christian. Number 9 is Heritage Christian. 8, Fort Worth Christian. And number 7 is Fort Worth Lake County. Number 6 is Carrollton Prince of Peace. 5, Fort Worth All Saints. And number 4 is Parish Episcopal. 3 is Reddick Ovilla Christian. 2 is, someone's going to help me out here.
Argyle Liberty. Argyle Liberty.
Argyle Liberty. And the number 1 spot is Prestonwood Christian.
Yeah, Argyle Liberty was preseason number 1 for us. State champs, defending state champs in the 6A level. Prestonwood overtaking them at number 1. Very interesting because those teams are going to see each other. They're in the same district, so they're going to see each other a lot throughout the season. So those expect some movement towards the top just because when they play each other so much, one team is probably going to get the better of one towards the end. So it'll also be interesting on playoff time to see those two teams in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Josh, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think Shannon nailed this one. I mean, Argyle Liberty has 3 losses, Preston, and it adds some intrigue, right? So it's like, hey, 2 district rivals, 1 and 2. The Prestonwood jumps ahead of Argyle Liberty. There's some good story in that. So other than that, yeah, I think kind of similar to the 1A through 4A in Austin, San Antonio. Once you get to about the 5 through 10 range, it's kind of like, okay, you can kind of mix these up however you want, really. So. Yeah, I think Shannon kind of nailed these volleyball rankings for the private schools.
Yes, for sure. That's why you got to tune in every week to see how things shake up every week. And so that was it for our volleyball rankings. And do we have any last thoughts before we transition into football?
Josh, I think you said it right. Brandeis probably still the number 1 team really in the state. Mm-hmm. But there's so many good teams here that any one of these teams, and again, these rankings aren't an indication of how we think we'll do in the playoffs or anything when that time comes. So this is just the current rankings for now. But surprise team to me so far is the Woodlands being undefeated, coming in your number 1 spot in Houston.
Yep. They shook things up this week. Josh, any final thoughts before we move to our preseason football rankings?
Yeah, I think my final thoughts are you ready for some football? Let's get into these rankings.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
I think we're all so excited. It's happening in we said 2 days?
2 days.
2 days.
Game starts on Thursday.
Start the countdown, y'all. And so these are our preseason rankings. Again, feel free to comment below. Let's get into Houston 5A, 6A, your top 10. Number 10 is Fort Bend Hightower. Number 9 is Peyto. And number 8 is Westfield. Number 7 is Bridgeland. Number 6 is Atascocita. Number 5 is Manville. 4, Fort Bend Marshall. And number 3 is Spring Lions. Number 2 is North Shore. And number 1 is Katy Tigers.
Yeah, not really surprising to have Katy at number 1.
Right.
State champs, they're the Katy Tigers. Also not surprising, North Shore coming in at number 2. Now, North Shore does lose a lot with Demetrius Davis and Shadrach Banks. Mm-hmm. Moving on to Shadrach is now at TCU, Demetrius at Auburn. But having those teams 1-2, not really a surprise. If you wanted to flip them, I would disagree with it, but I would understand as well. Spring, a lot of people are predicting Spring will make the state or will come out of Region 2 to the state championship game, which is very interesting, very hot take, because in Region 2, you got to go through Dallas. So Spring coming in at number 3, and then really some other 5A teams to keep an eye out for. Fort Bend Hightower, Fort Bend Marshall, some really good teams there. And Katy Paytow, sneaky good coming in at 5A. I think they got some really good running backs there.
Awesome. So you're just going to have to stay tuned and see what those are going to come about. So let's move on to Houston for 1A through 4A. At number 10 is Schulenburg. 9 is East Chambers. At number 8 is Sealy. 7 is Huffman Hargrave. And number 6 is Silsby. Number 5 is Columbus. 4 is East Bernard. 3 is Belleville. Number 2 is West Orange Stark. And number 1 is El Campo.
Yeah, Ocampo, they have the number one 2023 running back in the country, and Ruben Owens. So they, in my opinion, had an early exit last year in the 4A level, but Ruben Owens is back. They have a lot of returning starters, so not surprised to see the Rice Birds there at number one. And then there's a lot of, because for the 1A through 4A, we've talked about it, kind of go on the outskirts of Houston a little bit. So West Orange Stark coming in, representing the 409, the Golden Triangle area. That is a very proud football program. They got some really good athletes over there, so not surprised to see West Orange Stark coming in at number two.
Right.
Wait,
Always helps when you
by
have
the way,
turning.
if you haven't seen it, you need to go check out it's some places on Twitter, but the El Campo Rice Birds running back had a crazy run in his scrimmage this past week, just right up the middle, and he's gone, and he's like 10 yards from anyone in like 3 seconds. It's crazy. This kid is going to have a great season. Just I don't even have to like question that. So look out for him. Oof, man, it was crazy. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, folks.
Yeah, well, he was a UT commit. I think he decommitted from UT, and so UT's still on the option. But when he was committed there, that's when Jaden Blue was committed as well. He's the number one running back out of Klein Kane, who's sitting out this year. So if Ruben Owens still ends up going to UT, you could have a Jaden Blue, Ruben Owens backfield at UT, which would be pretty awesome.
That would be something to see.
Absolutely.
And let's move on to Houston 1A, private schools. Moving right along. At number 10 is Rose Hill Christian. Number 9 is the Woodlands Christian. 8, Cypress Christian. Number 7 is St. Pius. 6, Episcopal. 5 is Legacy Prep. 4 is John Cooper. Number 3 is Fort Bend. Number 2 is Kincaid. And your number 1 spot is Second Baptist Eagles. Scotty T.
Yeah, the Second Baptist Eagles, they have Thunder and Lightning in the backfield.
The backfield.
They have a dynamic duo on running backs. You have Eli Smith, who's committed to Villanova, and then you have Eli Skillern, who just committed to Brown, if I'm not mistaken. So Eli will get you with the speed. He's the Lightning, and then Everett will kill you with the Thunder. He's the bulldozer, can get those tough yards, get that first down whenever you need it to. So Second Baptist, their path to state, though, runs through Austin Regents, and I'm sure we'll cover Regents here whenever we reach the Hill Country area. That's who they've fallen to in the playoffs for the past few seasons. Regents ended up winning state last year. So, but Second Baptist, Fort Bend Christian, that is going to, in my opinion, determine who wins that district championship, because we saw Fort Bend Christian coming in at number 3 there, 2 really talented programs. And Fort Bend Christian, they almost cut their football program just a handful of years ago, and now we're talking about them being in the conversation for a district championship. Tremendous job over there by Jordan Black at FBCA. So, and then also in the SBC ranks, keep an eye on in Kincaid and Episcopal. Kincaid is Dylan Bell, who's committed to Georgia, VYPE Preseason Player of the Year. Episcopal, though, they've been the kings of SBC. So Kincaid really wants to overtake Episcopal for that championship.
A lot of stuff happening in the private schools, so watch out as we get started here this week. That's it for Houston. Let's move to San Antonio and Austin, starting at 5A through 6A.
Oh, hold on.
10.
There you go. Sorry about that.
There we go. I saw Brandeis. I was like, are you sure?
Really changing things up here. Number 10 is Dripping Springs. Number 9 is Steel. Number 8 is Bernie Champion. Number 7 is Rouse. Number 6 is Reagan. Number 5 is Brennan. Number 4 is Cedar Park. 3, Lake Travis. And number 2 is Liberty Hill. And number 1 is Westlake.
Yeah, Josh, I'll let you take away with this, but I mean, no surprise.
No surprise there.
To see Westlake at number 1. Big shout-outs to Liberty Hill being number 2. That's the number 1 5A school. They could really make some noise. They can win a lot of games without throwing a single pass without triple option. So, Josh, what you got on this one?
Yeah, it's Westlake and then everyone else at the moment. I mean, we're only basing stuff off of what we know, and that's what we know of last year, right? They do lose a lot on defense, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But one of the big ones, let me throw this back up here real quick. Let me make sure I get the right one this time. Number 5, Brennan. Number 6, Reagan. They play each other week 1. So that is going to be a big time game. I think we're actually going to preview and pick that game Thursday and Friday. So a huge game week one between Brennan and Reagan, both teams with high aspirations as we go into the season. So and then I think Westlake or Lake Travis, I think they play some type of Dallas team maybe. I got to look into that. I'm away from my computer, obviously, with the show. But, yeah, so that's the marquee matchup, number 5 versus number 6. But Westlake and Liberty Hill, 1 and 2, I think those were no-brainers for everyone.
Well, and Westlake will play Lake Travis being in the same district, too. That's always a big rivalry game over there in the Austin area. So that's going to be great. Lake Travis probably has a chip on their shoulder after an early exit last year in the playoffs. So if you want to blame it on COVID or anything like that, it was a tough season for a lot of people. But that's going to be a marquee matchup in the Hill Country.
Yep. Starting a week with a bang there. So let's take it to our 1A through 4A, San Antonio. And
I did it again. There you go.
there we go. Number 10 is Geronimo Navarro. Number 9 is Poth. Number 8 is Lexington. Number 7 is Falls City. Number 6 is Mason. And number 5 is Hilletsville. And number 4 is Bernie. Number 3 is Shiner. Number 2 is Austin LBJ. And number 1 is Wimberley. Josh, take it over.
Yeah, some of these teams at the top obviously had some success last year. Shiner winning it all. Wimberley coming up just short, as well as Austin LBJ coming up just short. I think each lost in the semis last year. Shiner is going to obviously look to try and get back. They lose some pieces, but they're going to try to get back. Other than that, I think you can kind of make arguments however you want about who should go where for the rest of the rankings. But for me, it's Wimberley and Austin LBJ until someone else shows otherwise.
Right.
Prove us wrong.
Please
with these
do.
rankings. If you think we're wrong, hey, let's go out, let's get the pads popping and go win some football games.
Exactly. It's about what they do out there on the field. And that's when we get to talk about the good stuff.
That's right.
All right, let's move to private schools for Austin and San Antonio. Number 10 is going to be Texas School of the Deaf. Number 9 is Holy Cross. 8 is Brentwood Christian. Number 7 is Central Catholic. Number 6 is Javanna. Number 5 is Etonian. Number 4 is St. Michael's. Number 3 is Shiner St. Paul. Number 2 is that Cornerstone?
Correct.
Christian. And and then number 1 is Regents.
Yeah, Josh, I'll let you take this one. Just my thoughts. Not really surprised to see Austin Regents coming in at number 1, defending state champs.
Yeah, I mean, look, defending state champs, they've been to the championship, I think, 4 years in a row, winning finally last year on that miraculous pick six, one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And then it's everyone else, right? So everyone else in the Austin-San Antonio area is really just going to have to prove themselves that they can get past Regents, because as of right now, Regents is that kind of top dog in private schools when it comes to Austin-San Antonio football. Cornerstone Christian, again, it's one of those things where they're their own thing. They don't really play for a championship, but they're still a dominant program as well. So you'll constantly see them towards the top, if not at the top. So, but yeah, Regents number 1 all the way.
Yep, talk dog school, and then everyone prove us. Like it. Let's move to Dallas-Fort Worth, 5A through 6A, your preseason rankings for football. 10 is Denton Geyer. Number 9 is Lucas Lovejoy. 8 is Arlington Martin. Number 7 is Highland Park. 6 is Allen. Number 5 is Euless Trinity. Number 4 is Aledo. Number 3 is Duncanville. Number 2 is South Lake Carroll. And number 1 spot is Denton Ryan.
Josh, keep these rankings up on the screen if you don't mind, because just looking at these teams, these are all powerhouse programs. Denton Ryan winning state. South Lake Carroll, they lost the state championship this last year. Duncanville is Duncanville. Aledo has the most state championships in the history of Texas, tying Carthage right now. Then you got Allen winning all those state championships. Highland Park, they won 3 out of the last 5 state championships too. And then you got Denton Guyer. Did Denton Guyer win state this last year, Josh? I think they did.
Yeah.
It's quiet. Yes, this is wild. This is wild. Unbelievable, great teams in the Metroplex. Josh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, just great teams overall. I mean, if you look at probably maybe 5 through 10, you could probably arrange those however you really want, and it would still be okay. Number 3, it's gonna be interesting because Duncanville plays Mater D week 1. Mater D, if you don't know, Texas People is a California private school, so they're coming down to Texas to play Duncanville. I don't know if Duncanville is going to win that one. I mean, when you look last year they played IMG and lost bad, and they got Mater D. Private schools, especially outside of Texas, in my personal opinion, a little bit better quality football teams because of the recruiting that goes into making those teams. So I would not be surprised.
What are you talking about? They don't do any recruiting. They don't do any recruiting. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. I will not be surprised if Duncanville loses week 1. But will it affect their rankings playing a nationally top-ranked program such as Mater D? What do you think, Scott?
No, it shouldn't. Yeah. Is it Mater? I thought it was Mater Day.
Tomato.
Tomato, tomato. No, it shouldn't affect the rankings because it's a completely different state, and they're not. I don't want to say anything that's going to get me in trouble here. It's not the same rules almost. Like I said, these private schools, like an IMG Academy, that's different. They're recruiting players from all over the country to come play for them. As one of our guys joked here, the IMG could probably beat some handful of college teams. So it's comparing apples to oranges. That's what I'm saying. You can't, if Duncanville loses week 1, we're not going to knock them for that just because they lost to a school from a different state. That, again, apples to oranges.
Right, we'll give them a pass.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, Josh. I mean, does that,
Yeah.
I'm kind of rambling here, I think, but what do you think?
No, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's going to be a great matchup regardless, so I just can't wait for that.
Definitely. Stay tuned. Let's take it over to a 1A through 4A. And this is for DFW. Number 10 is Malakoff. And number 9 is Strawn. Number 8 is Paris. 7 is Blum. 6 is Salina. 5 is Pilot Point. Number 4 is Gunter. Number 3 is Melissa. Number 2 is Brock. And number 1 is Argyle.
Yeah, not surprised to see Argyle here at number 1. They lost a lot. That was a pretty senior-heavy team that won state last year. But a program like Argyle, we mentioned Katy, North Shore, South Lake Carroll, you name it, they reload. So that's why I think Argyle's coming in at number 1 here.
Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you nailed it pretty well. And by the way, I'll make those easier to read next week. Got some dark on dark there, which is never easy to read when you're looking at a dark blue and black there. So I apologize about that. But I'm gonna put these back up here one more time. Yeah, I mean Argyle, Brock, and Gunter, even kind of Melissa, kind of some powers there. And then even Blum I think they're 2-3 years removed from a state title. So, and then Strawn at the 6-man level, always kind of in the hunt as well. So, I don't think you can argue with Argyle being number 1.
For sure. Definitely agree with that. Let's move to our final preseason football ranking. That's going to be DFW Private Schools. Number 10 is Episcopal School of Dallas. Number 9 is John Paul. Second. Number 8 is Lake Country Christian. Number 7 is Grapevine Faith. Number 6 is Fort Worth All Saints. Number 5 is Colleyville Covenant. And number 4 is Nolan Catholic. Number 3 is Prestonwood Christian. Number 2 is Dallas Christian. And number 1 is
Parish
Episcopal.
Yeah, Josh, my thoughts are on this. 1 and 2, you could flip.
Right.
If you wanted to flip 1 and 2, I wouldn't necessarily knock you on it because Dallas Christian has faced Austin Regents in the, was it Austin Regents? They faced Austin Regents last year in the state championship game, and Regents won on a walk-off pick 6, which is just all-time great. That is fantastic. Parish Episcopal won the state championship at the 6A level. So Dallas Christian, they start off against Trinity Christian Academy Addison, TCA, if I'm not mistaken. So Parish Episcopal, though, and Dallas Christian, they're going to be jostling back and forth between 1 and 2. Dallas Christian has a really good squad, but Parish is the state champs right now.
Right.
Yeah, I think you have to put Parish at number 1 just because of what they were able to do compared to Dallas Christian. Yes, Dallas Christian lost in a heartbreaking manner, but hey, those are the breaks, if you will. And so until we see some week 1 action, which 2 days away, we have to put Parish Episcopal at number 1.
2 days away. I still can't believe it.
I'm giddy.
So exciting. I know. Like, ooh. Okay, final thoughts about these preseason rankings for football, Scotty?
Yeah, it would be interesting if we wanted to compile a statewide ranking. We've kind of talked about doing it in TBD. If you want us to do it, let us know in the comment section below. Another game to watch out for week 1, which is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be Carthage versus Crosby. Crosby made it to the state championship game at 5A last year, and they lost to Aledo. Carthage has tied Aledo with the number of state championships. Josh, they've won, 7 out of the last 9 state championships in 4A or
it's something crazy like that.
Whatever it is. It's just makes no sense. It's total dominant program right now. So Carthage, if I'm not mistaken, is coming to Crosby to play. So that's going to be a very interesting game to keep out on. Crosby, even though they made it to the state game, they lost a lot of firepower on offense. So I just want to show some love to those teams. You want to talk about big week 1 matchups? That's one to keep an eye out for. I'm excited, though. College football's close, but high school football starts this week. That's all I got.
All right, cool. Josh, do you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for football to be back. All these rankings are really kind of speculation, but now we get, like you say, get to put the pads on. You get to hit someone, get to really see, hey, who should be number 1, who should be, in the rankings. So if we didn't have you in the rankings, hey, prove it to us on the field that you should be. And hey, maybe next week those rankings will change. But I'm excited. Let's get it.
Hey, these guys are probably excited to hit somebody who's not their teammate.
Right.
They've been going through 2 days, the dog days in August. It's been hot out there. You're seeing the same faces and whatnot lining up across from you, but now you have a different team, different color jerseys, everything. Those guys are going to be so pumped and fired up.
Oh, yeah. And after following a crazy season last year I bet they're so excited to be back out there.
Most definitely.
All right, so that was our show. We had our volleyball rankings, and we're going to continue that next week. And as football gets started, we'll get back to you next week. Again, I'm Taylor. This is Josh.
By the way, tune in tomorrow at noon for our St. Pius Coaches Show every Wednesday at noon. Also, 10 a.m., Will Turboff's VYPE podcast coming at you with a receiver from Decaney. So be ready to check that out. Till next time, everyone. Peace out.